Admiral Yuki Tanaka stood at the window of Earth Defense Command and watched the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and red. 60 years ago, humanity had looked up at those same stars with wonder and fear. Then the Galactic Confederation found them, and everything changed. The aliens came with open hands and promises of protection. "Join us," they said. "Pay your tribute, follow our rules, and no one will harm you." Earth's leaders agreed because they had no choice. Human technology was centuries behind the rest of the galaxy. Their ships were slow. Their weapons were weak. They were children stumbling into a room full of giants. Yuki had spent her entire career trying to change that. She commanded Earth's defensive fleet, which was a grand title for a small collection of outdated patrol ships. The Confederation never let humanity build anything more. Why would primitives need warships when their betters would protect them? Her communicator buzzed. She glanced at the message and felt her heart skip. It was from Director Chen at the Archives Division, and it contained only 3 words: "Come see this, an hour later." Yuki sat in a secure room deep beneath the Pacific Ocean. Director Chen, a thin man with gray hair and tired eyes, pushed a data tablet across the table. "We found this in the old files," he said, buried so deep that 3 different classification systems had to fail before anyone could access it. Yuki looked at the screen. The words Project Avalon glowed in simple white text. She scrolled through pages of technical specifications, construction reports, and personnel files. Her eyes grew wider with each passing moment. "This is impossible," she whispered. "That is what I thought too," Chen replied. "But I checked the records, the construction logs, the material shipments. It is all real." Project Avalon had begun 62 years ago, just before the Confederation arrived. Earth's greatest engineers had come together in secret to build something extraordinary, a warship unlike anything humanity had ever created. They worked in a hidden facility carved into an asteroid near Jupiter, far from alien eyes and Confederation inspectors. The project continued even after Earth joined the Confederation. Generations of engineers passed their work to the next. They improved the designs. They solved impossible problems. They built something that no alien species had ever imagined, because they built it the human way. "Where is it now?" Yuki asked. "Still there. The Jupiter facility. The ship has been sitting in darkness for 8 years, ever since the last team decided it would never be needed." Yuki stared at the image on the screen. The ship was beautiful in a way that human things often were. It did not have the smooth curves of Confederation vessels, or the sharp angles of other alien designs. It looked practical, functional, built by people who understood that space was trying to kill you every second of every day. The ship's name was Avalon. Before Yuki could respond, alarms began to sound throughout the facility. Red lights flashed on every wall. She ran to the command center, where dozens of officers were scrambling to their stations. "Report," she ordered. A young lieutenant turned to face her. His face was pale. "The Vexari Empire has declared war on the Confederation. They attacked the frontier colonies 3 hours ago. The Confederation fleet moved to intercept, but," he swallowed hard. "They lost." Yuki felt the floor shift beneath her feet. The Confederation fleet was the most powerful military force in the known galaxy. 10,000 ships crewed by 100 different species. They had kept peace for 1,000 years through the simple threat of overwhelming force. "How badly?" she asked. "Complete destruction. The Vexari used some kind of new weapon. The Confederation High Admiral is dead. So are most of his officers." The room fell silent. Every person there understood what this meant. Without the Confederation fleet, there was nothing to stop the Vexari from conquering every world they wanted. "What are the Vexari doing now?" Yuki asked. "They have announced their next target." The lieutenant's voice trembled. "The Confederation capital. Their invasion fleet will pass through our sector on the way." Yuki straightened her uniform and took a deep breath. "Contact the High Council. Tell them Earth stands ready to assist in any way we can." The reply came 4 hours later. It was not what she had hoped for. The message was from Councillor Varix, a tall insectoid creature who had always looked at humans the way a person might look at a particularly slow child. His voice dripped with false kindness as he spoke. "The Council appreciates Earth's offer, but your assistance will not be necessary. Your technology is—" He paused, searching for a polite word. "Quaint. Your military contribution would be irrelevant to the conflict at hand. We suggest you focus on evacuating your population to the designated refugee zones. The Confederation will handle the Vexari threat." The message ended. Yuki played it again, then a third time. Each viewing made her angrier than the last. "They are going to let us die," Director Chen said. He had followed her to the command center and heard the whole thing. "The Vexari will pass through our system, and the Council does not care." "The Council thinks we are nothing," Yuki replied. "They have always thought that. They kept us weak because weak species do not cause problems." She turned to the window and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, a fleet of 3,000 Vexari warships was heading toward Earth, the most brutal military force in the galaxy. Fresh from destroying the only power that could have stopped them, Earth had no allies coming to save them, no great fleet waiting in reserve, no secret weapon that would turn the tide. Except they did have one. "Director Chen," Yuki said quietly, "how long would it take to reach the Jupiter facility?" 18 hours with our fastest transport. Prepare a ship. I want to see Project Avalon with my own eyes." The journey felt like the longest of her life. Yuki spent most of it reading through the Avalon files, learning everything she could about the ship that might be humanity's only hope. The technical details were beyond her understanding, but she grasped the basic idea. The Confederation built their ships using templates passed down for thousands of years. Every species that joined the Confederation adopted those templates because they worked efficient, reliable, proven. But humans had not used the templates. They could not because the Confederation had never shared them. So Earth's engineers had to figure everything out on their own. They made mistakes. They found dead ends. They failed 1,000 times. But they also discovered things that no other species had ever found. Solutions to problems that the templates had simply worked around. Innovations that seemed obvious in hindsight, but had never occurred to anyone else, because everyone else had stopped looking. Avalon was not a Confederation ship with human paint. It was something entirely new. The Jupiter facility was carved into the heart of a small asteroid. From the outside, it looked like nothing special, just another piece of space rock tumbling through the void. The perfect hiding place. Yuki docked her transport and stepped into the facility. Emergency lights flickered to life as she walked through dusty corridors. No one had been here in years. The air was stale but breathable. And then she saw it. Avalon filled the central hangar like a sleeping giant. The ship was massive, nearly a kilometer long, with a hull of dark gray metal that seemed to absorb the light around it. Weapon ports lined its sides. Sensor rays covered its surface. Engine nacelles the size of buildings waited at its stern. Yuki walked closer, running her hand along the cold metal. Generations of her people had poured their hearts into this ship. Engineers who never lived to see it finished. Scientists who solved problems they were told were impossible. Workers who kept the secret even when they could have sold it for fortunes. They had all believed in something. They had believed that one day, humanity would need to stand on its own. That day had come. Yuki activated her communicator and called Earth Defense Command. "This is Admiral Tanaka. I need a full technical crew at the Jupiter facility immediately. And start recruiting volunteers. Combat pilots, engineers, anyone willing to fight. Admiral, what are you planning?" She looked up at Avalon and smiled for the first time in days. "I am planning to wake up our sleeping giant. The Vexari think Earth is helpless. They think we have nothing to fight with. Let us show them how wrong they are." As she spoke, a new message arrived from Confederation space. The refugee coordinator, a nervous little creature from a species Yuki could not remember, was babbling about evacuation routes and shelter assignments. At the end of the message, almost as an afterthought, he mentioned that the Vexari Emperor had made a broadcast. He wanted everyone to know what would happen to Earth. "The humans will be made an example," Emperor Zalvith declared. His voice was cold and cruel. "Those who surrender will serve the Empire as slaves. Those who resist will be erased from history. Every city, every monument, every memory. We will burn their world until nothing remains but ash and silence." Yuki deleted the message and turned back to Avalon. The galaxy thought humanity was weak. The Confederation saw them as children. The Vexari saw them as prey. They were all about to learn the truth. Captain Marcus Webb had not worn his uniform in 3 years. He kept it in the back of his closet, hidden behind civilian clothes he never really liked. Every morning, he would glance at that closet door and remember why he stopped flying. The accident had killed 6 people. 6 members of his training squadron, dead because he gave an order half a second too late. The review board cleared him of wrongdoing. They said it was equipment failure, not pilot error. But Marcus knew the truth. He had hesitated when he should have acted, and good people paid the price. Now he sat in a small apartment in New Tokyo, watching the news feeds like everyone else on Earth. The Vexari were coming. 3,000 ships, commanded by an emperor who had promised to burn humanity to ash. The Confederation had abandoned them. There was nowhere to run. His communicator buzzed with an incoming call. The screen showed the seal of Earth Defense Command. He almost ignored it. Then he saw the name attached to the call. Admiral Yuki Tanaka, his former commanding officer. The woman who had recommended him for captain before the accident destroyed his career. He answered. Marcus. Her voice was calm and direct, just as he remembered. I need you, Admiral. I am not sure what you think I can offer. I have not flown in years, I know. I also know why you stopped. But the situation has changed. Earth is facing extinction. And I have a ship that needs a captain. A real captain, not some politician in uniform. Marcus closed his eyes. He could still see the faces of his dead squadron. Still hear the screams on the radio as their ships broke apart. Find someone else. Someone who will not freeze when it matters. There's no one else. Tanaka's voice softened slightly. I have read every file on every pilot in Earth's fleet. You are the best we have. Not because you never made mistakes, but because you learn from them. The Marcus Webb I knew would never make that same mistake twice. He wanted to argue. He wanted to hang up and go back to pretending he was just a civilian. But something in her words cut through the walls he had built around himself. What kind of ship? He asked. Come to the Jupiter facility and see for yourself. I promise you have never seen anything like it. 18 hours later, Marcus stood in the hangar bay and understood why she had been so confident. Avalon was the most beautiful ship he had ever seen. Not beautiful in the elegant way of Confederation vessels, but beautiful in the way of a wolf or a storm. Powerful, dangerous, alive with purpose. The Confederation builds ships from templates. Admiral Tanaka explained as they walked along the hull. Every species uses the same basic designs, safe, efficient, predictable. But we could not access those templates. So our engineers had to figure everything out from scratch. She stopped at a massive weapon port and ran her hand along the barrel. They made mistakes, hundreds of them, but they also found solutions that no other species ever discovered. This ship does things that Confederation admirals would call impossible. Marcus studied the technical specifications on his datapad. The numbers were incredible, but one thing caught his attention more than anything else. The crew complement is only 200, he said. A ship this size should need thousands. That is because of Arya. Tanaka led him to the bridge, where a holographic display flickered to life at their approach. Adaptive Response Intelligence Ray. The most advanced artificial intelligence ever created by human minds. A calm female voice filled the room. Good morning, Admiral Tanaka. Good morning, Captain Webb. I have been reviewing your service record. Your tactical scores are impressive. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. He had worked with Ship A's before, but this was different. Arya's voice carried weight and awareness that felt almost human. Arya has been running combat simulations for 30 years, Tanaka explained. While she waited in the dark, she studied every battle in recorded history. She developed tactics that no living commander has ever used. She is our secret weapon as much as the ship itself. I appreciate the flattery, Admiral, Arya said. But I must point out that I am a tool. The humans aboard this ship will make the decisions that matter. I simply help them make better ones over the next several days. Volunteers arrived from across Earth. They came in civilian transports and cargo ships, slipping past Confederation sensors that did not bother to watch humanity too closely. Engineers who had dreamed of building something greater than patrol boats. pilots who refused to wait for death in evacuation shelters, officers who could not stand by while their world burned. Chief Engineer Yuki Sato was the first to join, a short woman with graying hair and oil-stained hands. She had worked on Avalon's original construction team as a young apprentice. Now she returned to finish what her mentors had started. "I helped install the primary power core," she told Marcus as they toured the engine room. 40 years ago, when I was barely old enough to hold a wrench, we had no idea if any of this would work. We just believed it had to." Lieutenant Commander David Okonkwo came next, a weapons specialist with steady hands and steadier nerves. He had spent years studying Vexari tactics from intercepted communications. "They fight like machines," he explained. "Every ship follows orders from the command vessel. Destroy the commander, and the fleet falls into chaos." Navigator Sarah Chen brought her talent for impossible calculations. Medical Officer James Park brought his experience treating wounds that should have been fatal. Dozens more arrived, each bringing skills that would be desperately needed in the days ahead. Marcus watched them work together, watched them transform Avalon from a sleeping monument into a living weapon. They were scared. Every single one of them was terrified of what was coming. But they showed up anyway. On the 5th day, the Vexari Emperor broadcast another message. His face filled every screen on every human device. A creature of scales and teeth and burning red eyes. "People of Earth," Zelvith purred, "your destruction approaches. In 3 days, my fleet will enter your system. You have one final chance to surrender. Open your doors. Lay down your weapons. Accept your place as servants of the Empire, and some of you may be allowed to live." He smiled, showing rows of razor-sharp teeth. "Resist, and I will personally ensure that the name human is forgotten forever. Every trace of your species will be erased. Your children will die screaming, and no one in the galaxy will remember they ever existed." The message ended. Silence filled Avalon's bridge. Marcus looked at his crew. 200 people against 3,000 warships. The math was impossible. The situation was hopeless. Any sane person would accept the Emperor's terms and pray for mercy. But these were not just any people. These were humans. "Arya," Marcus said quietly, "what are our odds? Based on current simulations, our probability of victory is approximately 3.7%. However, I should note that my simulations cannot account for human unpredictability. Your species has a documented tendency to exceed statistical expectations in crisis situations." Marcus almost laughed. 3.7%. That is actually better than I expected. He stood and faced his crew. They looked back at him with fear in their eyes, but also something else. Something that looked like hope. "I am not going to lie to you," Marcus began. "The Emperor is right about one thing. We are outmatched, outgunned, outnumbered 15 to 1. By any reasonable measure, we should surrender and hope for the best." He paused, letting the words sink in. "But I did not come here to be reasonable. None of you did. We came here because Earth is our home, and we refuse to let some tyrant burn it to ash. We came here because our ancestors built this ship with their blood and sweat and dreams, and we will not let their sacrifice be forgotten." His voice grew stronger. "The galaxy thinks we are weak. The Confederation abandoned us. The Vexari see us as prey. They all forgot something important about humans. We do not know how to quit. We do not know how to surrender. When everything seems lost, we fight harder." He pointed at the view screen, where distant stars waited beyond the hangar doors. "In 3 days, the Vexari fleet will arrive. They will expect easy prey. They will expect us to run or beg or die without resistance. Instead, they will find Avalon, and we will show them what happens when you threaten humanity's home." The crew was silent for a long moment. Then Chief Engineer Sato began to clap. Others joined her. Soon the entire bridge was filled with the sound of applause and cheering. Marcus allowed himself a small smile. The odds were still impossible. They would probably all die in the coming battle, but they would die fighting. And maybe, just maybe, that would be enough. "Arya," he said as the cheering faded, "begin final preparations. In 72 hours, we go to war. Understood, Captain? Avalon is ready, and if I may say so, I am honored to fight alongside you." Marcus looked at the ship around him, the ship his people had built in secret. the ship that carried humanity's last hope. "The honor is ours," he replied. "Now let us show the galaxy what humans can do." The Vexari Vanguard dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system. 500 warships, each one bristling with weapons that had destroyed countless worlds. They were the Empire's finest, sent ahead to crush any resistance before the main fleet arrived. Admiral Voroth commanded from the bridge of his flagship, Crimson Fang. He was old for a Vexari. His scales faded to a dull gray, but his mind remained sharp. He had conquered 17 worlds in his career. Earth would be the 18th. "Scan the system," he ordered. "Show me what the humans have prepared." His sensor officer worked the controls. The holographic display flickered and updated, showing the positions of every ship in Earth's territory. Voroth leaned forward, expecting to see defensive formations and evacuation convoys. Instead, he saw nothing. "Where are their ships?" he demanded. "There are none, Admiral. Our scans show only civilian traffic and orbital stations. No military vessels of any kind." Voroth hissed with disappointment. He had hoped the humans would at least try to fight. Conquering cowards was boring work. They must have fled already. "Proceed to the third planet and begin orbital bombardment. Let us burn their cities while they hide." The Vanguard fleet moved forward in perfect formation. 500 ships traveling at maximum speed toward Earth. They had crossed half the distance when a junior officer spoke up. "Admiral, I am detecting something unusual." "What is it?" "A single ship, emerging from behind Jupiter's moon. It is heading directly toward us." Voroth turned to look at the display. A small dot was indeed moving to intercept his fleet. Just one ship against 500. One ship. He laughed, a harsh sound like grinding metal. "The humans are more foolish than I thought. Destroy it and continue our approach." The lead warships adjusted their course and opened fire. Plasma bolts streaked through space, enough firepower to vaporize a small moon. The shots struck the approaching vessel dead center, and nothing happened. Voroth's laughter died in his throat. "What?" The sensor officer was staring at his screen in disbelief. "The ship's shields absorbed our weapons fire. All of it. I have never seen readings like this. The energy is being redirected somehow. Impossible. No shield technology can do that. Fire again." All forward batteries, 100 ships opened fire simultaneously. The space between them and the human vessel became a solid wall of destruction. Any normal ship would have been torn to atoms in seconds. But this was not a normal ship. Avalon emerged from the storm of plasma fire completely unharmed. Its dark hull seemed to drink in the energy, shimmering with captured power that flowed across its surface like water. Then it attacked. Captain Marcus Webb watched the tactical display as Arya coordinated their response. Avalon's weapons were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Instead of brute force, they used precision. Instead of destruction, they used disruption. "Target their communication arrays first," Marcus ordered. "Blind them before they can call for help." Avalon's electronic warfare systems reached out like invisible fingers. They slipped past Vexari firewalls that had never faced human code. They rewrote targeting algorithms. They scrambled navigation data. They turned the enemy fleet's own systems into weapons against them. On the Crimson Fang, chaos erupted. Consoles sparked and died. Lights flickered on and off. The weapon systems locked onto friendly ships and refused to respond to commands. "We are under attack," the sensor officer screamed. "Some kind of digital intrusion. Our computers are compromised." Voroth grabbed his command chair as the ship lurched sideways. Through the view screen, he saw two of his own destroyers firing on each other. Their guns no longer under their crew's control. "Shut down all network systems." He roared, "Go to manual control." But the damage was already done. Nearly a third of his fleet was drifting helplessly, their crews fighting to regain control of ships that no longer obeyed them. And Avalon was not finished. The human ship dove into the heart of the Vexari formation, moving with impossible grace. Its hull seemed to anticipate incoming fire, twisting and spinning to present its strongest shields at exactly the right moment. When it fired back, its shots never missed. Marcus felt his hands steady on the controls as his instincts took over. This was what he had trained for his entire life. This was who he was meant to be. All batteries, target their engines, he called out. Disable, not destroy. Leave the crews alive. Lieutenant Commander Okonkwo looked up from his weapons console. Sir, why would we spare them? Because dead enemies cannot spread fear. I want survivors. I want them to go back to their emperor and tell him what they saw here today. Avalon carved through the Vexari vanguard like a scalpel through flesh. It did not waste energy on killing when disabling would serve better. Ship after ship went dark as precision strikes took out engines, weapons, and life support. The vacuum of space filled with drifting hulks and escape pods. Admiral Voroth watched his proud fleet crumble around him. 300 ships disabled in less than an hour. The humans had not even scratched the paint on their vessel. This is impossible, he whispered. One ship cannot defeat an armada. His executive officer appeared at his side. Admiral, we must retreat. The Crimson Fang is still functional. We can warn the Emperor. Voroth wanted to refuse. He wanted to stay and fight, to restore his honor through victory or death. But he was old and experienced enough to know when a battle was lost. Set course for the main fleet, he growled. Maximum speed. The Emperor must know what we face. The surviving Vexari ships fled, leaving behind 200 disabled vessels. Avalon let them go. Marcus watched the enemy retreat and allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. Casualty report, he requested. Arya's voice filled the bridge. We sustained minor damage to forward shield emitters. All crew members are unharmed. Enemy casualties are estimated at 400 disabled ships, with minimal loss of life on the Vexari side. Chief Engineer Sato spoke up from her station. Shields are already regenerating. We will be at full capacity within 2 hours. Marcus nodded. The first battle was won, but he knew it was just the beginning. The vanguard was only a taste of what was coming. Arya, how long until the main fleet arrives? Approximately 36 hours, Captain. Based on sensor data from the retreating ships, the main force consists of 2,500 vessels. Emperor Zalvoth's flagship, the Eternal Dominion, is among them. 2,500 ships, 5 times what they had just faced. And this time, the enemy would know what to expect. Navigator Chen turned in her chair. Sir, we just received a transmission from the Confederation. It is from their refugee coordinator. Put it on screen. The holographic display showed a small alien creature with nervous eyes and twitching antennae. He spoke quickly, his voice trembling. Earth vessel, this is Coordinator Villax of the Galactic Confederation Refugee Authority. We have been monitoring your engagement with the Vexari Vanguard. We did not believe our sensors at first, but the data is clear. You have won a significant victory. The creature paused, looking uncomfortable. The Confederation Council still cannot offer military support. However, we are sending this message to inform you that several refugee convoys are currently fleeing from Vexari-occupied space. If you can delay the main fleet for even a few hours, millions of civilians might reach safety. He leaned closer to the camera. We know you cannot win against the full armada. No one expects you to. But if you could buy us time, the Confederation would be grateful. The transmission ended. Marcus stared at the empty screen for a long moment. They still think we are going to lose, Lieutenant Commander Okonkwo said bitterly. They watched us tear apart 500 ships, and they still think we are just a speed bump. Let them think what they want. Marcus stood and walked to the main view screen. The stars stretched out before him, cold and infinite. Somewhere out there, millions of refugees were running for their lives. Somewhere out there, an emperor was preparing to destroy everything humanity had ever built. We are not fighting for the Confederation, Marcus continued. We are not fighting for their approval or their gratitude. We are fighting for Earth. We are fighting for every person who looked up at these stars and dreamed of something greater. He turned to face his crew. The main fleet will be here in 36 hours. We will use every second to prepare. Arya, I want new tactical simulations. Find me weaknesses we can exploit. Find me ways to turn their numbers against them. Already working on it, Captain. I have identified several promising strategies. Marcus smiled grimly. Good, because when Emperor Zalvoth arrives, I want to give him a welcome he will never forget. The crew returned to their stations with renewed determination. They had won the first battle. They had proven that humanity could fight. Now they had to prove they could win. Outside Avalon's hull, the disabled Vexari ships drifted in silence. Their crews waited for rescue, unable to do anything but think about what they had witnessed. A single human vessel had crushed 500 warships without breaking a sweat. The survivors would tell their stories when the main fleet arrived. They would describe shields that ate weapons fire, computers that turned against their users, and a ship that moved like nothing they had ever seen. And Emperor Zalvith would listen. He would hear the fear in their voices. He would see the terror in their eyes. Then he would come for Earth himself. Emperor Zalvith stood at the heart of his flagship and listened to Admiral Voroth's report. The old warrior knelt before him, scales pale with shame, describing how a single human ship had destroyed his entire vanguard. They used weapons we have never seen, Voroth explained. Their shields absorb our fire and redirect it. Their computers invaded our systems faster than we could respond. Our best ships were helpless against them. Zalvith said nothing for a long moment. His red eyes burned in the dim light of the command chamber. Around him, his generals shifted nervously. They had conquered 100 worlds together, but they had never seen their emperor so still. "One ship," Zalvith finally said. His voice was soft, almost gentle. "One ship defeated 500. Yes, my emperor. I take full responsibility for the failure." Failure. Zalvith tasted the word. "You did not fail, Admiral. You provided valuable information. Now I know that the humans are not as helpless as we believed. They have been hiding their true strength." He turned to face the massive view screen that dominated the wall. The stars of human space glittered before him, so close he could almost touch them. "I will deal with this personally. Signal the fleet. We proceed to Earth immediately." 2,500 Vexari warships dropped out of hyperspace near the orbit of Mars. They filled the void like a swarm of angry insects, blocking out the stars with their dark hulls. At their center sat the Eternal Dominion, a vessel so large it dwarfed everything around it. Emperor Zalvith's throne ship, crewed by 10,000 warriors and armed with weapons that could crack a planet in half. On Avalon's bridge, Arya updated the tactical display. "Enemy fleet has arrived. 2,473 vessels confirmed. The Eternal Dominion is holding position at the center of their formation." Captain Marcus Webb studied the enemy positions. The Vexari had learned from the Vanguard's defeat. Their ships were spread out, making it harder for Avalon's electronic warfare systems to affect multiple targets at once. Their commanders were using manual backups instead of networked computers. They adapted quickly, Lieutenant Commander Okonkwo observed. "Our tricks will not work as well this time. Then we use new tricks." Marcus pulled up Arya's latest tactical analysis. The Vexari fight in rigid hierarchies. Every ship follows orders from the one above it. Destroy a command ship, and the vessels under it become confused. He pointed at the display. "There are 14 sector commanders between us and the Emperor. We take them out one by one. Each time we kill a commander, we create chaos that spreads through their formation." Navigator Chen frowned. "We will have to punch through thousands of ships to reach each commander. The math does not work." "The math never works in our favor," Marcus replied. "We do it anyway." Avalon's engines roared to life. The ship shot forward, accelerating toward the enemy fleet at speeds that should have been impossible. The Vexari opened fire, filling space with a solid wall of plasma and missiles. This time, Avalon did not simply absorb the attacks, it danced. Arya controlled the ship's movements with precision that no organic pilot could match. Every twist and turn was calculated to minimize damage while maximizing forward momentum. The ship spun through gaps in the enemy fire, using debris from destroyed missiles as additional cover. "First command ship identified," Arya announced. "Sector Commander Rexel, aboard the Blood Price, engaging now. Avalon's primary weapons activated. Unlike Vexari guns, which relied on overwhelming firepower, these weapons were designed for surgical strikes. A single concentrated beam punched through the Blood Price's shields and detonated its reactor core. The command ship vanished in a flash of light. Immediately, the 30 ships under Rexel's command fell into disorder. Without their leader's orders, they hesitated, some firing wildly while others broke formation entirely. Avalon used the confusion, to slip past them and target the next commander. For 2 hours, the battle raged across the solar system. Marcus and his crew pushed themselves to their limits, adapting to each new challenge the Vexari threw at them. When the enemy tried to box Avalon in, Navigator Chen plotted escape routes through asteroid fields and planetary gravity wells. When massed fire threatened to overwhelm their shields, Chief Engineer Sato rerouted power from non-essential systems. One by one, the sector commanders fell, 8, 9, 10. Each death sent ripples of chaos through the enemy fleet. Ships collided with each other. Friendly fire took out vessels that Avalon never touched. The Vexari Armada, so disciplined and terrifying when it arrived, was becoming a disorganized mob. But the victory came at a cost. Damage report, Marcus called out after a particularly brutal exchange. Forward shields at 40% and falling. Sato responded. Her voice was strained. Primary power core is overheating. We are pushing the engines to hard. How long can we maintain current performance? 2 hours, maybe 3. After that, systems will start failing. Marcus looked at the tactical display. They had destroyed or disabled over 1,800 Vexari ships, an incredible achievement. But 700 still remained, and they were adapting to human tactics. Worse, the Eternal Dominion had not moved. Emperor Zalvith sat at the center of his remaining fleet like a spider in its web, watching and waiting. He is learning, Arya observed. The Emperor is studying our attack patterns. Each wave of ships he sends against us is better prepared than the last. As if to prove her point, the Vexari launched their most coordinated assault yet. 300 ships attacked from multiple directions simultaneously. Their fire timed to prevent Avalon from effectively dodging. The ship shuddered as plasma bolts slammed into weakening shields. Hull breach on Deck 7. Someone shouted. Emergency teams responding. Medical Officer Park reported. 2 injured, no fatalities. Marcus gripped his command chair as another volley rocked the ship. They were winning, but they were also dying. The math was catching up with them. Then Chief Engineer Sato's voice cut through the chaos. Captain, we have a problem. The port engine is failing. I can repair it, but I need to shut down power to the shields on that side. How long? 15 minutes, minimum. 15 minutes with one side of the ship completely exposed. Against 700 enemy vessels. The math was clear. Do it, Marcus ordered. Arya, adjust our attack pattern to protect the port side. Everyone else, buy Sato the time she needs. Avalon wheeled around, presenting its strongest shields to the enemy while Sato worked. The Vexari sensed weakness and pressed their attack. Missiles and plasma bolts hammered against the ship's defenses. Warning alarms screamed throughout the vessel. 10 minutes. The shields on the starboard side began to flicker. 12 minutes. A direct hit breached the hull near engineering. 14 minutes. Another hit, this time to the sensor ray. Half of Arya's tactical data went dark. Sato, Marcus called urgently. We need those engines. Almost there, Captain. Just a few more seconds. A Vexari cruiser broke through the defensive screen and lined up a shot at Avalon's exposed port side. At this range, with no shields, the hit would be catastrophic. Chief Engineer Yuki Sato saw what was happening on her console. She saw the enemy ship taking aim. She saw that the engine repair needed 30 more seconds to complete. She made her choice. Without hesitation, Sato sealed herself into the engine room and manually overloaded the backup power systems. The surge of energy completed the repair instantly, bringing the port engines back online. The emergency shields snapped into place just as the Vexari cruiser fired. The shot was absorbed. Avalon survived, but the overload killed everyone in the engine room. Marcus heard Sato's final words over the intercom. Engines restored. Captain, give them hell for me. Then her voice went silent. The bridge crew worked in stunned silence. Someone was crying. Someone else was praying in a language Marcus did not recognize. But no one stopped fighting. No one gave up. Port engines at full power, the backup engineer reported. His voice cracked with grief, but his hands were steady on the controls. Chief Sato's modifications are holding. Marcus bowed his head for just a moment. Then he looked up at the tactical display, where Emperor Zalvith's flagship still waited. All remaining weapons, Focus on the command ships. Arya, find me a path to the Eternal Dominion. This ends now, Captain. The probability of surviving a direct assault on the Emperor's flagship is less than 1%. I know. Marcus stood and faced his crew. They were battered, grieving, exhausted. But they were still here, still fighting. Sato gave her life so we could finish this. I will not let her sacrifice be wasted. The Emperor wants to destroy Earth. He wants to erase everything humanity has ever been. The only way to stop him is to take him down personally. He paused, looking at each face in turn. Anyone who wants to evacuate, I will not blame you. You have already done more than anyone could ask. No one moved toward the escape pods. Navigator Chen shook her head firmly. We came here together, Captain. We finished this together. Marcus smiled despite everything. Then let us go kill an emperor. Avalon surged forward one final time. The remaining Vexari ships tried to stop it, but the human vessel was fighting with a fury they could not match. For every ship that fell, two more moved aside, their crews terrified of the monster that had torn their fleet apart. Ahead, the Eternal Domain. The Eternal Dominion was a monster of metal and fire, nearly 5 kilometers long. It dwarfed Avalon the way a mountain dwarfs a stone. Its weapons could glass continents. Its shields could withstand the combined firepower of entire fleets. Emperors Alvith had used it to conquer worlds that thought themselves unconquerable. Now it faced a single human ship, battered and scarred from hours of brutal combat. The Emperor is hailing us, Arya announced. Put him on screen. Emperor Zalvith's face filled the display. His red eyes burned with a mixture of fury and something that might have been respect. Human Captain, he said, you have fought well. Better than any species I have ever encountered. You have destroyed nearly 2,000 of my ships with a single vessel. Such a thing should be impossible. Marcus kept his expression neutral. And yet here we are. Yes, here we are. Zalvith leaned forward on his throne. I offer you one final chance. Surrender your ship. Tell me how you build it. Serve the Empire, and I will spare your world. Your people will become slaves, yes, but they will live. Is that not better than extinction? Marcus thought of Chief Engineer Sato, who had given her life to keep Avalon running. He thought of the 200 crew members who had followed him into this impossible battle. He thought of Earth, spinning peacefully behind him. Billions of people looking up at the stars and wondering if they would see another sunrise. You want to know how we built this ship? Marcus replied. We built it with our hands and our hearts and our stubborn refusal to accept limitations. We built it because your Confederation told us we were too primitive to matter. We built it because we knew that someday someone would try to destroy us, and we refused to die quietly. He stood, facing the Emperor's image without fear. You cannot have our ship. You cannot have our secrets, and you will never, ever have our surrender. Zalvith's eyes narrowed. Then you will die screaming, and your world will burn. Maybe, Marcus said, but you will have to kill us first. And we do not die easily. The transmission cut off. The Eternal Dominion's weapons began to glow with charging energy. Arya, Marcus called. Can we win a straight fight against that thing? Negative. The Eternal Dominion outguns us by a factor of 100. Our shields cannot withstand sustained fire from its primary weapons. Then we do not fight straight. Marcus turned to his crew. Remember what Arya said about Vexari command structure. Every ship follows orders from the one above it. The Emperor is at the top of that chain. If we can take him out, the whole fleet collapses. Navigator Chen pulled up sensor data. Their shields are too strong for our weapons. We cannot punch through from the outside. Then we go through the inside. Marcus pointed at the tactical display. Arya, show me the Eternal Dominion's docking bays. The image zoomed in on the massive ship's underbelly. Several large openings were visible, designed to receive shuttles and supply vessels. The bays are shielded, but the shields are weaker than the hull defenses, Arya explained. If we approach at the right angle and time our attack precisely, we could penetrate the docking area and board the ship directly. Lieutenant Commander Okonkwo stared at Marcus in disbelief. Board the Emperor's flagship? With what army? With the crew we have. We do not need to conquer the whole ship. We just need to reach the Emperor and take him down. Without him, the Vexari have no one to give orders. Their entire fleet becomes leaderless. It was insane. It was suicide. It was exactly the kind of impossible plan that only humans would be crazy enough to attempt. "I am in," Navigator Chen said immediately. "Same," Okonkwo added. One by one, the bridge crew voiced their agreement. These people had already accepted that they might die today. If death was coming, they would face it on their feet, weapons in hand. "Arya, plot our approach," Marcus ordered. "Get us inside that ship." Avalon dove toward the Eternal Dominion like a hawk attacking a dragon. The Emperor's flagship opened fire with everything it had. Space itself seemed to burn as weapons designed to crack planets unleashed their fury on a single target. But Avalon had learned to dance in the fire. Arya pushed the ship's systems beyond any safe limit. Engines screamed. Shields flickered and reformed. The hull groaned under stresses it was never designed to handle. Warning lights covered every console like angry red stars. Closer, closer. The docking bay loomed ahead, growing larger with every heartbeat. "Brace for impact," Marcus shouted. Avalon slammed through the energy barrier protecting the docking bay and crashed into the Eternal Dominion's hangar. Metal shrieked against metal. Sparks flew in every direction. The human ship carved a path of destruction through parked shuttles and storage containers. Before finally grinding to a halt, Marcus was out of his chair before the shaking stopped. He grabbed a rifle from the emergency weapons locker and turned to his crew. "Boarding parties, form up. Arya, keep the ship running as long as you can. We are going hunting." The corridors of the Eternal Dominion were dark and vast, built for Vexari warriors who stood 3 meters tall. Marcus led 50 of his crew through the alien passages, following Arya's guidance toward the command center. They met resistance almost immediately. Vexari soldiers poured from side corridors, firing weapons that could tear a human apart. But the humans were faster, more agile, and fighting with nothing left to lose. "Keep moving," Marcus shouted over the chaos of battle. "Do not stop for anything." Bodies fell on both sides. Human, Vexari. The floor became slick with blood of 2 different colors. But the humans pushed forward, driven by determination that their enemies could not match. After what felt like hours, they reached the command center. Massive doors blocked their path, sealed with locks that should have been unbreakable. Arya's voice crackled through Marcus's communicator. "I have accessed their security systems. Opening doors now." The doors slid apart to reveal Emperor Zalvith's throne room. The space was enormous, filled with pillars of dark stone and banners celebrating Vexari conquest. At the far end, on a throne of black metal, sat the Emperor himself. Zalvith rose as the humans entered. He was even larger in person than he appeared on screen. A mountain of scales and muscle and barely contained rage. "You dare invade my ship," he roared. "You dare challenge me in my own throne room?" Marcus stepped forward, his rifle aimed at the Emperor's chest. "You threatened to burn our world. You threatened to erase our species. Did you think we would not fight back? Fighting back is one thing. What you have done is something else entirely." Zalvith's eyes swept over the battered humans who had followed Marcus this far. "You have destroyed my fleet. You have invaded my ship. You have proven that humanity is far more dangerous than anyone believed." He drew a massive blade from behind his throne. "But you have also proven that you cannot be allowed to exist. I will kill you all myself, and then I will personally oversee Earth's destruction." The Emperor charged. He was faster than any creature that size had a right to be. His blade swept through the air, cutting down to humans before anyone could react. Marcus opened fire. His shots struck Zalvith's armored hide, but barely slowed him down. Other humans fired too, filling the throne room with the sound of weapons discharging. Zalvith kept coming. He was a force of nature, unstoppable and merciless. More humans fell to his blade. Then Marcus saw his opening. The Emperor's throne sat on a raised platform connected to the ship's main power grid. Arya had uploaded schematics to Marcus's communicator earlier, showing how the throne room's life support was tied to that single connection. "Cover me," Marcus shouted. He dove past the fighting, rolling under Zalvith's swinging blade. He reached the power junction behind the throne and shoved his rifle's barrel against it. "For Earth," he whispered, and fired. The power surge was not meant to kill the Emperor. It was meant to broadcast. Arya had secretly accessed the Eternal Dominion's communication systems. Now, through the power junction, she transmitted something that Marcus had prepared hours earlier. The Emperor's personal logs. Every message where Zalvith had sacrificed his own soldiers for glory. Every order that sent loyal Vexari to die so the Emperor could claim credit for victories. Every betrayal, every lie, every moment of cowardice hidden behind a mask of strength. The broadcast reached every surviving Vexari ship. Crews who had lost brothers and sisters to the Emperor's vanity suddenly learned the truth. Commanders who had obeyed without question realized they had been pawns in a tyrant's game. The fleet began to tear itself apart. Zalvith staggered as reports flooded in. Ships turning on each other. Officers refusing orders. His entire empire crumbling because his own words had condemned him. "What have you done?" He snarled at Marcus. "I gave your people a choice." Marcus stood, blood dripping from a wound on his forehead. "You ruled through fear and lies. I showed them the truth." The Emperor raised his blade for one final strike, but he never completed the swing. His own guards, the warriors sworn to protect him, drove their weapons into his back. They had heard the broadcast too. They had lost family to his schemes. Zalvith, Emperor of the Vexari, died on the floor of his throne room, killed by the people he had betrayed. When the Galactic Confederation fleet finally arrived at Earth, they expected to find a devastated world and a victorious Vexari Armada. Instead, they found something impossible.